The Life and Breath series is pleased to announce and introduce tonight's speaker, Karen Duffy. And the talk tonight is called You Are Not Alone with Karen Duffy. For those of you joining us for the first time, this talk is being given on behalf of the Life and Breath Foundation. My name is Dr. Bhanote, and I am one of the Clinical Advisory Board members for the Life and Breath Foundation. The Life and Breath Foundation exists primarily with the goals to offer sarcoidosis community effective tools to track their journey, decipher medical issues, and maximize their quality of life. Also, we want to be able to provide a nurturing environment for those affected by sarcoidosis and to share their experiences. We hope with the Life and Breath Foundation to build more awareness within the medical community and to help combat this disease. So with our guest speaker tonight, Duff is a New York Times best-selling author who in her new book shares heartwarming lessons about life, motherhood, and python attacks. Her new book is called Wise Up, The Irreverent Enlightenment from a Mother Who's Been Through It, and this book has also been named as one of Oprah Daly's 50 most anticipated books of 2022. So for those of you who may remember Karen Duffy, she is an iconic MTV DJ. She has also starred in Dumb and Dumber, and she was also diagnosed with a life-threatening illness that we are going to talk about, sarcoidosis. She's been through a lot, but part of this is that becoming a mother really helped her build some solid life lessons that she passed down in this book. So if you haven't had a chance to read this book, Wise Up, we're going to give you a little bit of insight in what you're in tune for. And also, we're excited to, at the end of this talk, for those of you who will stay on till the end of the talk, Karen Duffy will be giving away a signed copy of the book to one of the individuals. So stay tuned. And today, Karen is not just joining us for parenting inspiration, but also as an advocate and an ambassador for sarcoidosis patients. So if you would not mind, please welcome me in joining Karen Duffy, also as her friends call her Duff, for our conversation tonight. So welcome, Duff.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to see you. You're doing great work.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you come talk to us for the Life and Breath Foundation and really talk to us really about your journey. So if I could take you back for a moment and maybe let's start with where your journey started. What was it, even before your diagnosis, what was going on that you even went to go see a doctor to say, all right, something's not feeling right? Was there something that happened?
Yes, I was lavishly healthy and somewhat uncognizant of how blessed I was with such vital good health. And I felt like I was living in my body the way you drive a rental car, like having a lot of fun, hitting the gas. And I was actually at the Emmys and I had an excruciating headache, and I'd never had a headache like this. It was truly like I was struck by lightning. And it was worrying enough that I went right to my doctor in New York City, who then stayed late and set me up for a full neurological workup. So literally I went from having a headache to the next day going to the hospital and actually being hospitalized on and off for about 2 years. So it just happened like that.
It just happened one day, yeah. And so when you went into the hospital, what were you thinking? Like, what were you thinking was going on?
It's interesting because my general practitioner had said, listen, it's not going to be good, but he said it's either going to be, he was thinking multiple sclerosis, lymphoma, many of the diseases that mimic sarcoidosis. And like many of my brothers and sisters who are patients, it took about about 2 years to truly get a diagnosis. But in that time, it wasn't like I was suffering from not knowing. I kind of took the opportunity to trust in my doctors, believe in medicine, believe that I was going to get through this. And I also just took the most optimistic diagnosis that day, whatever they were bouncing around.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so when you finally did get the diagnosis, now you have a very rare form of sarcoidosis. So not only did you get a diagnosis of sarcoidosis, you got one of the more rare forms. So what did you think then once you got that diagnosis?
Well, it's interesting because the day that headache started, that pain has never left. And I think the interesting thing is I had to find a way to negotiate with my diagnosis, because I didn't want pain to make me mean or unhappy, because I absolutely believe that chronic illness, chronic pain, and happiness can coexist. So I just wanted to keep my light bright and stay active and live a life of purpose and meaning, while managing incredibly high level neuropathic pain. So in a way, I feel more like a pain patient who has sarcoidosis than a sarcoidosis patient who has pain, because the pain is truly like, it feels like I've got this evil parrot on my shoulder that's just pecking and clawing at me. And again, so much of our diagnosis and our conversations about illness are wound up in a lot of warlike metaphors, like we're going to beat this, we're going to fight it, and we're going to blast it. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. I mean, I don't want to imagine all this fighting going on in this one body that I have. So I just decided I'm going to try and peacefully coexist. And that attitude has really helped me go. I think it's been a really helpful way my attitude, I think, is everything.
Yeah, yeah. Peacefully coexisting with one, pain, but secondly, a diagnosis is probably a better way to go. I mean, you're living, walking proof of that. Now, so for some of the people who are watching today, or maybe going to be watching later, you have a diagnosis of neurosarcoidosis, which is sarcoidosis that involves the nerve structures. And that's why your expression is that you have neuropathic pain, because it's involving those nerve structures. Is there anything else that was involved that you experienced that you were like, oh, okay, I have this. I didn't know this was part of the sarcoidosis experience, because it is very personalized and individual, because sarcoidosis is one of those diseases that can affect many organs, you know? So
Truly.
what experience?
So I did have lung involvement, but my brain presented first. And then I was down to about 50% lung capacity. That did rebound. And I've had it in my skin. And again, as sarcoidosis, the granulomas, it can attack anywhere we have soft tissue. So I believe it's only our teeth, and we can have it in our bone marrow. Teeth and hair are both like the few places that are off the bingo card of sarcoidosis. It's been, I think, having such a rare disease has been interesting. And in a way, I thought, well, you know what, maybe I can write my own story. Maybe I can kind of tell my own story of how I'm going to navigate life with this. And, listen, I've been sick for half my life. I got sick when I was 30. I just turned 60. So half of a lifetime, I didn't think it was possible to live this long in chronic pain. But I'm living proof, and I'm busy.
Yeah, you're keeping busy. So we've got some great questions coming up in the Q&A, and we're definitely going to get to them. So please do put all your questions in the Q&A for Duff to answer. We're excited to answer those for you. I still want to stick with your journey a little bit and talk about, what were, like, what else crossed your mind in the sense of you were a public figure and now you have this diagnosis. So how was it with communication with your friends, your family? Because being that on the outside you might have looked okay, but on the inside you were in a lot of pain. So how was this, like, just being for you emotionally? How did you see that?
Well, I think I felt like a piano fell on my head that, oh, wow, I'm going to have to figure out a whole new life. And I would say I was working for Revlon, so my job was to be a model, and I was the Almay girl and the Charlie perfume spokesperson, and I was at MTV and I was doing movies, and disclosure is always very personal, especially when you have to tell your employer. And I recognized that being on steroids and methotrexate was no beauty treatment, and I was losing my hair. I was, I had Cushing syndrome. I grew a mustache. So unless Revlon had aftershave, I didn't see a long relationship with them. So I was honest and I said, yeah, I am no longer that tomboyish gamine you hired. I am a really fighting, we always go back to it. I am tangoing with a very serious illness. And what was amazing, that Revlon, a company that makes cosmetics that is all about the exterior, they said, we hired you for your inner beauty, and they kept me on for another 15 years, which is incredible. So I was able to kind of really hone my skills as an advocate. So I'm very grateful for that, but for Revlon. But through Screen Actors Guild, I cannot pass a physical. I cannot pass a test, a physical test, in order to get a job as in front of the camera. So I figured, well, I had a great run. Dumb and Dumber was kind of fun. I felt like I snuck into a party and I was just waiting to get kicked out. So I figured I was young enough that I could figure out a whole new way to live. And that's when I kind of pivoted to writing. I had been writing and producing, but it's a very personal decision for all of us. And when and who you're going to tell was embarrassing. One of the things about chronic illness is the sense of shame, this burden of shame, which we didn't do anything. We didn't cause this to happen. It is our genetic inheritance. And I felt deeply shamed that I was extracting all this worry from my family. And I had to, again, recalibrate and negotiate that part of me, because I don't want to walk around carrying this burden of shame, which just seemed like a real misuse of the imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just touched upon something that, you felt like you had your career run and now you had to pivot, you had to shift, right? But you're clearly a creative person and you shifted to use your creativity in that writing sphere. So how was that for you? Like how did that feel? Like, do you feel like you're in that space? Like, this is what you were supposed to do now? I mean, you've written a number of books, bestsellers, the one we're talking about this evening. So did you feel that this was just you becoming the person who you're going to be?
Well, I feel like we will have many epiphanies and many new beginnings. Seneca, one of my favorite philosophers, said, it's like every beginning comes at some other beginning's end. And so I had always been writing, and before MTV, I would write for Rock and Roll Man. I wrote for Spin. I wrote a column for Glamour magazine. So I just figured, I need to have a way to live and make a living and feel like I have a purpose. And I kind of love the challenge of every day climbing over this wall of self-doubt, facing a blank page, and then I stay at it. It's funny, I've got a piece due tomorrow, and I was procrastinating about my article. And then I started to research procrastination while I was procrastinating. And now the article is going to be about procrastination, which in Greek means self-harm. So I read this funny fact about procrastination, that when you're put off something, you get a little boost of serotonin, because you think, oh, somebody in the future will figure that out. But the person in the future is you. But we look at that, our future person who's figuring out our lives is not ourselves, which I kind of thought was funny.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of books behind you, so it looks like you are in your library. And I've heard you say before, where you kind of read your brain into a new brain, right? So that's how you kind of recreated who your new identity was. So is there any favorite reads that you have that you think really helped you?
Absolutely. The Art of Living, the Sharon LaBelle edition is incredible. It takes a couple hours every morning when I wake up. I have to take my medicine, and it's time released, so it takes a bit of time. And so in that time before I can put on clothes and really engage with life, this is a quiet time for me to read. I take online classes, and I really find that books have an ameliorative property. It was actually Florence Nightingale during the Crimean War. She created bibliotherapy, which is essentially reading has the same efficacy as cognitive behavioral therapy. So reading opens us up to compassion and emotion, and so reading is a gift we can give ourselves. And it just guts me that we have so many distractions, because I have read myself a new brain, and I love it. I mean, I am so voracious in reading that I could just stay up like all night. Like, I understand people who have addictive behaviors, because I truly have to make an effort for me to stop reading, because I love it so much.
So I'm going to read a little quote from your book.
Okay.
Well, a little paragraph from your book that I think will take us into the next question I might have for you. So in your book, you talk about, I've lost the simplicity of living a healthy, pain-free life, but I have gained a deep appreciation of how to squeeze the most out of my time here. Chronic pain has ratcheted up my gratitude for everyday joys. It has magnified my happiness in simply being alive. And then you go on to say, these are some of the things that make you happy. Words make me happy, like crackpot, Weisenheimer, pickle, schnoz, and Charlie horse. I get a kick out of the fact that I have 3 friends named Happy. One of them is quite pure. I love the names Bill, George, Andrew, Lori, Lynn, Katie, Ada, Lizzie, Greg, Peg, John, and Jack. When I see those sets of letters on a page, they rearrange the chemicals in my brain and send a jolt to my heart, which lights up like I hit the jackpot on the slot machine. These names connect me to the people I love the most in the world. I really love this, because when I was reading this, and I'm like, it's taking you to another place where you're finding that happiness. You know what makes you happy, and you surround yourself with that. So, I was reading this and I was like thinking about some of the other sarcoidosis patients that might be struggling, and how you might be able to guide them to find their happy the way you did. Like you figured it out, you know what you need to handle the chronic pain with your sarcoidosis journey. If some people are kind of new in this journey, or even if they've been in it for a while and they're still trying to figure it out, what do you think can help guide them?
That's a beautiful question because I am a grizzled old veteran of sarcoidosis. I think Andrea Wilson at Foundation for Sarcoidosis, I think we're like the 3 decades. I feel like we should give each other medals or medallions for how long that we've had it. There is a sense of isolation when you get diagnosed with a chronic illness that is often misunderstood, that is an orphan disease. And and I would just encourage like patients and old and new is to do what you love and lots of it. And finding, we find happiness through, I think, it's connected to a purpose and being grateful. And so a small thing that I do every day, which is I write a thank you letter, handwritten 5 days a week. And it's not about reciprocity. I don't send emails. I just randomly thank people. And by taking that action to say, like I just wrote a letter to a doctor I read about in the Times. And I was like, thank you for caring for your patients. I just read about you and big thumbs up. He has no idea who I am, but in a way, expressing gratitude, it's opening up my heart and maybe recognizing what I can be grateful for. And being a part of a community like the Life and Breath. I mean, understanding that you're not alone and that you have multiple patients, and being a part of these webinars, just again to kind of connect and not feel like you're ostracized, because we can be really hard on ourselves as a patients. I'm sure you see that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, you are not alone is a perfect title for this talk, right? Because it is very isolating when you get this diagnosis, and everybody's experience is going to be different. Everybody's journey is going to be different, but at the same time, you can really support each other. And I think that's what, the Life and Breath mission is, to really contribute to that supporting for the individual. So that's great. So now I'm going to ask you about some of the other things you might do. So part of Life and Breath is also about having a healthy lifestyle that supports you and kind of provides you with the nourishment and what you need for your sarcoidosis journey. Now, you mentioned a little bit about journaling. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about journaling. And then I know you have some pretty good cooks in your house that might be related. So I'm sure people are curious about what you eat.
Well, I read that if you write every day, if you just write 3 things that you're grateful for, it could be my jackasses, my dog, the fact that there's a full moon tonight. It can be very simple. But when you do that, there is a absolutely quantitative impact in your sense of well-being by just being aware of the small things. And I think being aware of the small things to be grateful for is a great place to start, because we have a lot of things that we are mourning. I had to mourn for my old life and figure out a whole new way to live. And that is a struggle. That's not something that happens overnight. So taking steps, I really love to volunteer, and I love being a mentor. And through Camp Felix, which was founded by Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC, there's a great mentoring program which you can do right online. You can send a kid to camp. I mean, there are many opportunities, but often maybe we don't know where to look. Because we are at the tail end of the pandemic, I think we're understanding that it is possible to serve without being in a in a hospital clinical situation. I was a hospice chaplain, and then I could no longer work at the hospital. So now I do service in smaller ways. But I think there's always something to do. And again, starting small is great. And then you asked about my diet, and my son and my husband are world class rowers. My son is ranked second in the world in indoor rowing, and my husband seventh in the world for their age and weight class. And my son is always saying, Mom, you eat like a middle-aged teenager. Like you've got to. So cooking for them, it's always about nutrient dense foods, a lot of smoothies, and I just made gazpacho, which I really enjoy, the New York Times recipe, and I just throw in some jalapenos, but like something like gazpacho, which is perfect for right now. And again, at the New York Times recipes, you can't do better, but that is just filled with everything that you need. And it absolutely tastes like food when you're drinking it. So we serve it in glasses. We don't eat it out of bowls. We do it the way that the Spanish do, is like in the morning, we take a drink. So, and I have to be motivated to move my body because of chronic pain. I almost feel like a turtle with a broken shell. And I hired my son to be my trainer, and he was very funny. He took a drone and put a marshmallow and tied it to the bottom and then flew it around the house. And my job was to chase the marshmallow. This was his motivation to get me going.
Was the marshmallow good when you caught it?
I caught it, and I found the bag of marshmallows in the pantry. So it was a double win.
I love that. So I'm going to read one more quote from your book because I think it's just totally in line with what you've just been talking about, especially if individuals are having a challenge with even setting any goals, and like how's the best way for them to set their goals if they do want to make some changes. So in your book, you say, decide on your goal and select a small carrot step to take. The baby carrots will keep you moving and on the way. You will embrace the beauty and chaos of the journey. I love writing, but it's very easy to put it off, delay, procrastinate, jump into the lake, or go out for a coffee with a pal. To motivate myself, I find a small carrot. If I sit down to write, I get to listen to old school love songs. If I get stuck, I make myself a cup of tea as a reward for what I did do. Once I've scribbled a few pages, I get to take a walk. One of my carrots is the reward of strolling down to the barn to give real carrots to Jake and Mason. When I despair about getting a book written, I think of the stubborn nature I see in the donkeys. So this is where you go on to talk about the marshmallow as a carrot and how you can kind of translate so many different things into carrots. We just have to start thinking in that way.
Truly, the way you put a carrot in front of a donkey, we have to put small arbitrary goals in front of ourselves, and that just gets us moving. There's something called the Newtonian law of inertia, which states it takes twice as much energy for me to get my keister up out of this chair than it does to take the first step. So what we have to do is overcome the inertia. So we've got to find a powerful motivator to just get us up. And then once we're up, we only need 50% of the power and motivation. We're already in motion. I mean, I exercise and I try and eat well, not to fit into a bathing suit, but because my dad always says, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? And already, I've got some complications. I'm on a lot of medicine that's probably not, they're not vitamins. It's medicine with powerful side effects. And I have to do what I can. I feel like my doctors are on a team, but I have to show up for myself because nobody else is going to. Epictetus, my favorite Stoic philosopher, says, how long are you going to wait to demand the best for yourself? And I think today is a great day to demand the best for yourself. And so that's being responsible, taking action. And again, small little actions, it really adds up.
Yeah, no, definitely taking some of the power back in your hands, because you actually have quite a bit more power than you think. Instead of waiting for the doctor to tell you what to do next, just listen to your body. I mean, you know, you want to move your body, you know, that makes the pain go away.
Mhm.
You know, reading makes you feel good. So you're doing things that you know work for you. So that's wonderful. I'm going to take it over to some of the questions that have been lining up in the Q&A for a minute here. So we have a comment from Miss Karen saying, thank you for sharing your story and your journey. Do you think the awareness of sarcoidosis and treatment has evolved since your diagnosis? And please share encouraging words for all sarcoidosis warriors. Thank you.
Oh, I do believe, I mean, that awareness has multiplied since mid 90s when I was first diagnosed. I believe I was at one of the Life and Breath's very first events. And I think that People magazine did a great story about Wise Up, and then in their health issue went back to talk about sarcoidosis. So we're very grateful for that. When I see a sarcoidosis mentioned in a magazine, I will then write a thank you note to the editor saying, thanks for mentioning, there's many more of us, it's an orphan disease. And just, I think by throwing support behind the outlets that are shining a light is a great action that we can take. And for words of encouragement for all the sarcoidosis warriors is, like, I'm here for you. We're all here for you. We're here for you at Life and Breath. And you can find me at my website, which is Wise Up Stoic. And I'm right there all the time.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a comment here from Wendy. I love your attitude. I have neuro and it is inactive. I found out today. Okay, Wendy. So Wendy is one of our Life and Breath people who comes to a lot of our talks. So this is a great talk for her, especially since she just found out today. She's asking, how are you doing with your treatments? Do you have anyone in your family that has sarcoid?
Wendy, that is the great news. I mean, so her neuropsych as of today is no longer active. Well done. Congratulations. That is, I'm sure, a huge relief. And no one in my family has sarcoidosis, but my sister has an autoimmune. She has vitiligo, and my brother is living with a 9/11 related cancer. He was down at the World Trade Center, so he's living with multiple myeloma. So I don't know. I mean, growing up in New Jersey, could this be it? The environment? I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how I got it, because it's already here. And again, I don't want to misuse my imagination. I want to spend the time that I can on things that I can control. And that's one of the great lessons of Stoic philosophy is we can't control what happens. We can only control how we respond. So if I can respond with grace and kindness towards myself, towards others, then I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Okay, I am going to continue with the questions. There's a lot coming in, but I do want to touch upon, so you have mentioned this word a couple times. And for some of the people who might be listening, may not know who the Stoics are. Could you, I know the one, the obstacle is the way, Marcus Aurelius, so I know that one, but I know you speak of many Stoics in your book. So could you please share, for people who might not know who the Stoics are and how you feel that they have provided so much wisdom for the ages?
Well, so we're familiar with the word stoic, which we think of the small s stoic as a stiff upper lip, somebody kind of bearing pain with great resolve. That's not what Stoic philosophy is. In Greek, the porch is called a stoa. And in ancient Greece, this group of philosophers met on a porch to share with the world what they were thinking. It's a radiant, practical philosopher. Epictetus, who's one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, was his Epictetus in ancient Greek means acquired. He was born a slave and was so incandescently smart. He was given his freedom, and he went on to found this great school of philosophy. So, I mean, a lot of times when we hear philosophy, we think of, like, people in black turtlenecks, smoking gauloises, wearing berets, and they have a big stick up their keister. But Stoic philosophy is not a pretentious school where you're stroking your chin. It's Stoic philosophy has given me a scaffolding of strength. So it helps me think when I don't know what to think. And it truly is based on the theory that we can't control what happens. We can only control how we respond. So I have found that we all have a philosophy for living. Sometimes we just don't categorize it. And so living with sarcoidosis, I discovered reading Marcus Aurelius, and I have been a devoted reader. I have a spiritual practice, but I also have a philosophical practice where I read philosophy, and I feel happier. I feel steadier. I feel calmer, because living with the chronic illness is unsteady, scary. There's always something. I always say, like, trying to keep sarcoidosis hidden is like keeping a beach ball underwater. It always comes up and smacks you in the face. So finding a philosophy for living, and I highly suggest the Stoics, has taught me, I believe, to be a calmer, more resilient, grateful person.
Words really are your happy place. I can tell. They're really your happy place. Yeah, just not even just reading your book. I can tell words are your happy place. Duff, so now we're getting a question here about how have you navigated sarcoidosis with all these other infectious diseases that are happening, like coronavirus and now monkeypox. How are you navigating this?
Well, thank you for the question. Again, because I have sarcoidosis, I tried to really minimize my life. I live in New York City, and I went up to our family's farm to kind of get away from everybody in my building. Got it when we really didn't know how to treat it. So I got sarcoidosis. I'm sorry, I got coronavirus in this past May, and I will tell you, I was pancaked by it. And I didn't have any respiratory involvement. It was just low blood oxygen level. So I was prepared. I always have a medical kit. And I think one of the responsibilities we have as people who live with chronic illnesses is to, make sure that we have our medicine with us. We have a place, almost like a go bag, that I know where to go. My medicine's always there. It's safe. It's zipped. And, but I now keep a pulse oximeter in my medical kit. And, I went on, a family vacation about 3 weeks ago, and my husband got COVID. And I was grateful. I had my medical kit. He used the pulse oximeter, and he was really low. So I think it's important to be aware that we have a responsibility to care for ourselves. I think I will always wear a mask on public transportation. I think that will always be a part of my life, and I'm okay with it. I think we all need to adjust. And monkeypox, I kind of like the name. I mean, just, but it's terrifying. And I think that there seems to be some vaccines on the way. But so I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm thinking more about this BA variant of COVID, which is exploding all over Europe. So be careful.
Thank you, Duff. And now, I don't know if somebody has asked this, it might come up later, but you mentioned your little medical kit that you keep. So let's talk about what's in your kit, because, I think it is very important to have something that you can rely on in certain situations. So in case some of the people who are listening haven't even thought about like creating their little to-go kit, what you mentioned that you have a pulse ox in there. Do you have like your favorite tea bags in there? What else do you have in there?
You know what? I keep the prescriptions that I have, which are restricted for pain. And whenever I travel, I bring the full bottle with the label and the prescription in the event that a piano falls on my head. I will have all that information, what I take and how often. So it's about, I would say it's about the size of a six-inch hoagie. Is that what you call it? Like my medical kit. I keep eye drops. I keep hand sanitizer, wipes. I keep breath mints. I keep a small flashlight. I keep rosary beads. I keep photos. I mean, it all just fits in a little, almost like a cosmetic kit of people I love. And I also have a laminated card that has my name, my date of birth, the medicine that I take, how often I take it. And I keep that on a laminated card and keep that in there. I keep one by the phone. I give one to my husband. So again, if I am nonverbal, he can't remember everything. So it's all right there. And all my doctor's numbers are right there on that card.
I love it. You're a model patient. This is great. You can be my patient. This is great. You just are making it too easy. Okay, so we have another question here, and somebody's actually saying this is the $1 million question. So the $1 million question is, how do you handle fatigue?
Okay. The $1 million question, out of our puny 26 letters that we use to make words, I just used 3. NAP. When I am tired, I realize, well, I mean, I am drinking coffee at 8 o'clock at night, but that was to be present for you guys. But I try and treat my body the way I would treat somebody that I really love. And I should love my body because it carries me around, but often we put ourselves last on the checklist. The medicine I take is making me very sleepy. I'm trying a new pain medicine, and I'm trying to do it to get accustomed to it, and I am more fatigued. So I find that I can either take a nap, or if I get my body moving, I often will get a renewable source of energy. It's almost like I'm solar powered. If I get out in the sun and take a walk, if I'm really tired, I will get going. I read that when you wake up in the morning, whatever you do that gives you a hit of serotonin, whether it's you're drinking your coffee or scrolling through Instagram or going for a walk, your body will then crave that way of getting serotonin. So again, if you just said, all right, I'll have my coffee and I'm just going to go for a walk to the mailbox and back. It will actually, I think, get your batteries running a bit more. So far, I'm a work in progress.
We're all works in progress, yes. So, okay, we have a thank you here from Tamara. She is a fellow neurosarcoidosis sufferer, and she is saying that your book significantly helped her when she was first diagnosed, and while she was trying to understand the disease and the impact and what perhaps she could expect. So a big thank you is coming in from her. And she is also tuning in from Australia.
Oh,
so your impact crosses oceans. She is also asking, as a person who lives in Melbourne, Australia, I look to my American cousins for support as there are many more people sharing their wisdom. My question is probably more Life and Breath Foundation, and can we look at a worldwide support system database? Absolutely, Tamara. Thank you for making that recommendation for Life and Breath. We will definitely keep that in mind, and we do hope to be able to reach all sarcoidosis patients worldwide. So this is not limited to the US, but that does make me think of perhaps we will talk about it in the Life and Breath to consider when we're giving our talks, because maybe they are or are not Australia friendly, because it's probably, it might be super early for you there, depending on the time. So we'll take a look at that, is what I'm saying. So thank you for bringing that point up.
Yes, thank you, our antipodin sister.
All right, so we've got a couple questions here on medications. So the medication that obviously keeps coming up is methotrexate, and how for some people it's really kicked me around.
Yes.
What have you done to make that easier? Do you take it? Let's see there. Yeah, so really kind of sharing what your experience has been with the medications that are often recommended with sarcoidosis and how you manage them.
So methotrexate, I think, is a go-to, and prednisone are probably the two heavy hitters. I also take MS-Contin and gabapentin. And then for really like intractable pain, amytryptyline, but that makes me incredibly sleepy, so I try to minimize that. With methotrexate, I didn't tolerate it as well taking it by mouth. So I probably took it for 6 years. Every week, I would go to the hospital and have, I would get an injection. And that really, I tolerated it much easier than taking it by mouth. And again, with prednisone, it's, I Googled one time, I hate prednisone. I don't hate prednisone, but I Googled it and there were 8 million hits. And I thought, no, man, I love prednisone. Prednisone, yeah, it can be it is an amazing drug for anti-inflammation. And I would take it over and over again. I'd take it, today if I needed it. Again, I found ways to maybe minimize my doctor didn't prepare me for the side effects. And I found, increasing B2 vitamins really helped with the Cushing syndrome. And luckily that, listen, have a few, you know, hurdles that I'm dealing with. I think, but I would take those medicines all over again because they've gotten me to the point where 30, nearly, I'm like 25, 26 years in, and the life I have, I feel so blessed. So it was worth it. And just know that maybe you have to pay the piper a little bit and find ways. One of the things that really helped for, when I would go to the hospital to go get, and I just would go in and a nurse would give me the injection. I would make a sandwich out of it. So I would do something that I liked on the way. So maybe that was getting a cup of tea. And then I would go and get the injection, and then I would do something nice for myself. And so I would put all, the medical stuff in between two pieces of bread and make a sandwich. So try and make a sandwich out of it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. It almost reminds me of like rituals, if you have morning rituals or evening rituals to kind of take you through your day. So we have a really good question here I want to ask you. So one of our listeners is Aura, and she is saying that her mom has vitiligo and she has ocular and pulmonary sarcoidosis and is undergoing testing for cardiac sarcoidosis. But her question really is on motherhood. When did you talk to your son about your condition, as she currently has a 7-year-old son, and obviously the conversation is going to come up, so they would like to know about when you had your conversation.
Well, good luck. I also have eye involvement, and I guess we can kind of get used to anything. With my son, because the pain issue is so visible. I mean, if you can see, I can't wear any clothes that touch my neck. So I can't have my hair down. I can't wear necklaces or anything that will touch this area, because it will feel like there's a blowtorch just having air on this. So my son, when he was a baby, I'd hold him on my left side and he'd be like, oh, I'm gonna touch your neck. And so he kind of would joke about it. And I remember my son is a hockey player and he's a little kid and he's a goalie and he has to wear so much equipment, and I could never like tie his shoes because I have neuropathy in my hands, and my hands are all curled up and I don't have dexterity. So if my husband was traveling, I would have to ask someone. And I mentioned to my son, have you noticed that I'm not like the other moms? And he was polishing my appy. He is, because you're pretty. And I was like, you love. But as my son has grown, I've said, I understand that you could be frustrated. The fact that me getting out of my ski jacket, I'm flailing around, like not being able to operate zippers, trying to fish a key out of my pocket into the door, like just doing anything that requires dexterity. I drop a lot of dishes. I've spilled water on my computer because I'm dropping things. And so I've just said, hey, it might be frustrating for you, to have to wait for me. The fact that I can't sit in the front seat because I can't have a seatbelt across my neck. And I tried to look at it through his point of view. And I think that was really helpful. Watching me may be frustrating to you, but this is my life and this is what we're going to have to deal with. He's an incredibly resilient kid.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got time for 2 more questions. Okay, so here's one. So Neva is saying it's like you're not supposed to be sick. How do you handle sarcoidosis when you're the only one who has it? And then Stephanie actually chimed in because she hears this also as well, is that how are you supposed to when you're experiencing it, and I'm not supposed to be sick mentally all the time. So how do you kind of handle this mentally when people are like, they don't see what's going on and nobody understands?
Well, the word compassion means suffering together. And honestly, the people who know us and love us, it is hard to understand. Doctors have a hard time understanding. So if you can find room in your heart to be forgiving, because often it is like, is it Susan that asked this question? Is that her name?
This was Neva and Stephanie.
Okay, so Neva and Stephanie and everyone today, you have people in your life that love you so much, and they think, how is it possible? I love Neva and Stephanie so much, and I can't believe this disease is tormenting her. It's not fair. So their love for you will occlude their normal thinking. And so they think, if that could happen to such amazing people like Neva and Stephanie, then it could possibly happen to me. So that's what you're experiencing, is you're experiencing fear. You're seeing their fear and it's washing up on you. And that's why we have a community, so we can say, we've all been through it a million times, and we're here for you. We understand.
Thank you, Duff. All right, so last question of the evening. Somebody really loved the idea of making a sandwich, and I don't know if they're talking about the kind of sandwich or the one you just said, but both sound good.
Mhm.
But if you were diagnosed today, what would you do differently?
If I was diagnosed today, I honestly can't imagine. I mean, I love the doctor. I would say I was a little bit late to the game in putting together a team. And that's what I would do differently. Was I had a neurologist who I loved. I was a little late I was afraid about going to a psychologist who studies the psychology of illness in women, because I thought, oh, I'm tough, I can handle it. But she really helped me I didn't want to fall into a hole and not be able to get out. Depression, chronic pain, and chronic illness often travel in the same neighborhood. So I was well aware that if I was depressed, it would absolutely add to my burden. So I went to a mental health doctor who I highly recommend. And I didn't go to her because I was fighting with my mother. I went to her because I wanted to figure out, how can I be the best patient? How can I be good to myself? How can I, grab life by the neck and kiss it? And that's what I learned. So, and that's what I want to share.
No, that's great. And I think that totally aligns with the mission of Life and Breath, to really create that village of doctors and patients that can provide that for people going through sarcoidosis, right? Both the community and the experts that are available to them. So thank you so much for your time this evening, Duff, and thank you so much for being a sarcoidosis ambassador. We do have a winner for tonight's book. Well, don't mind my little stuff here.
Great.
So Duff will be sending out a signed copy of her book, Wise Up, and the winner is Terry Fulmore. So please, in the next week or two, you will be expecting a copy. Life and Breath will reach out to you to get your information. And keep your eye out for that. And once again, thank you so much, Duff. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you join the Life and Breath Foundation.
Thank you to everyone at Life and Breath. It's been absolutely an honor, and I'm here if you need me, and we're in this together.